Okay, so I bet some of you are glad to see this. I have now made it to the debut of TNA Impact in my weekly review series. To summarise the company so far, 2002 TNA is hilarious for how crazy it was, and just to see some of the early stars performing and then random Attitude stars debuting, and then they were never seen again. The show often didn't make any sense. 2003 calmed down a bit, but it was now lacking a bit in the star power department. Decent enough, but I do not recommend watching the first half of 2004 TNA. It felt like the show has been really struggling. The only stars on the show were AJ Styles, Raven, Slapnuts and Killings. Almost every week they held an international tournament so they could just film some cheap shows and hardly any storylines. I am very glad to be moving past all of that. Today it will be the first episode of TNA Impact, but in the future I may do 3 of these per video, because what we get on the new Fox Sportsnet TV deal is a 45-minute show, and for the time being it will mainly be used as a hype vehicle to hype the weekly pay-per-views, and it will continue like that for the next 3 months. Then TNA will move to a more typical monthly pay-per-view model. So does that mean that TNA Impact was pointless for the first few months? Let's watch and find out. Alright, so it's the first ever TNA Impact, which debuted on the 4th of June 2004 from Orlando Studios, Florida on Fox Sportsnet. It is their first proper television deal after having to do the weekly pay-per-view model for the first 2 years. So that kind of meant that many people didn't see the first 2 years of TNA. That's why the internet is great. So interestingly, for this first episode of Impact, they didn't have the TNA intro song, which we all know, and it's something different and it just feels a bit off. The visuals are now very different to how TNA looked up to this point, and of course it is the debut of the 6-sided ring. Something that they didn't actually have for the first nearly 2 years of TNA. That is often a glossed over fact. Anyway, every time I look up at this image, it feels like I booted up the video game. And the very first person we see on the first ever TNA Impact is P.T. Williams. He also has Bobby Roode, Eric Young and Scott D'Amore with him on the dance floor. It'll be a 6-man tag taking on Amazing Red, Sonjay Dutt and Hector Garza. Everybody instantly throws themselves out of the ring onto the Canadians. It's good to see the debut of the Fox Sportsnet match graphics. If anyone's wondering, this is where I got the Ring of the Hawk graphic from. Big head scissors from Sonjay Dutt. Amazing Red comes in hitting a drop toe hold with him and also drop kicks. Bobby Roode takes over using his power game. He lifts up Red so that Williams can hit a diving bulldog for a 2. Scott D'Amore takes a cheap shot as usual. Amazing Red manages to hit a head scissors and a DDT to Team Canada and he tags Hector Garza. He dominates and hits a big turtle wheel slam, but the other power man Bobby Roode powerbombs him. Then Sonjay Dutt springboard flips into the ring into a hurricane on Roode and the crowd love that one. EY takes him out of a wheelbarrow net break, now Red hits the Code Red with the pin getting broken up. P.T. Williams wipes out Amazing Red with the Canadian Destroyer, but now Hector Garza is back. He gives Williams an alley-oop. No pin is made. Roode tries a powerbomb to Dutt, who snaps off a Hurricane to escape. Hector Garza now flies into the ring with an insane twisting moonsault to Bobby Roode, and that is how the first ever match on TNA Impact goes down. What a match! Of course, a massive spot fest, but you can't say that this match was lacking in excitement. A brilliant start. Throughout the show, they will recount some of the TNA historic moments so far. I guess it's a good way to get some of the bigger names in wrestling onto the show, even if they couldn't be here live. The next match will see Shark Boy taking on the Monster Abyss. Bit of a mismatch right here. Shark Boy manages to get out of a chokeslam through biting. He hits a dropkick and moves on to 10 punches in the corner. Abyss stops that mid-smack. Shark Boy hits a jawbreaker as Goldilocks, the manager of Abyss, appears on the screen. Abyss catches a Shark Boy dive and he drops him into the waves. Big powerful corner clothesline now from Abyss. The Shark manages to avoid a backbreaker, but then he runs straight into a black hole slam. Pretty simple squash match. Randomly, Popeye the Sailor Man gives Shark Boy a hug, I guess because we're at Universal Studios. The tag titles on the line next. The challengers are America's Most Wanted, James Storm and Chris Harris. Interestingly, they haven't been teaming up lately as James Storm spent lots of the year 2004 injured and TNA kept testing Chris Harris out as a main eventer. But now they're back together. The champions are Kid Cash and Big Brother Dallas, aka Lance Hoyt, aka Lance Archer. The Cowboy makes quick work of Kid Cash, sending him flying all over the ring. Then he works with Chris Harris so he can hit a bulldog, with Dallas breaking up the pin. Storm is tagged again and he hits a flying axe smash. Cash manages to slow him down with a stun gun and here comes Big Dallas. He slams Storm and then throws Cash into a moonsault on him for a 2. During an advert break, Storm hits a super kick, but they choose to show the replay whilst Cash is about to hit a move, so either way, we're going to miss one of them. Cash slams Storm once again and then he climbs up his big brother in the corner. He tries a moonsault off his shoulders, but he misses that. I bet the landing for him was a lot smoother in the old ring. Chris Harris has the tag. He wipes out Dallas for crossbody for a 2. He comes close again with a flying clothesline. The match breaks down as Dallas hits the blackout and Cash quickly follows up with a frog splash. No pin is made as Harris spears Cash, only for him to get a big boot as soon as he gets up. Dallas tries another big boot, but catches the ropes and Harris rolls him up for the 3. The new champions are America's Most Wanted for an incredible 4th time, and it hasn't even been 2 damn years. Some shoes walk down the corridor. A mystery person is coming. I wonder who it is. They spend time recounting the World X Cup now. Yeah, don't remind me, it's been a horrible chore to get through that. They're just hyping up that everybody hates Team Canada and they will get beaten up on the next weekly pay-per-view. Mike Tenay brings out the American Dream Dusty Rhodes. He's actually been in TNA a fair bit over the last 6 months, but I guess there will be lots of new fans watching TNA for the first time tonight, so that's a bit of an attraction for them. Dusty talks a lot about the word Impact. Yeah, I'm going to do an impact on my nappy in a minute. He moves on to talk about all the big names that have wrestled for NWA Gold in the past. If only you knew about Mike Mondo. Jeff Jarrett regained the heavyweight gold on the last pay-per-view. Dusty claims that Jarrett only cares about the money. Some horrible music interrupts Dusty and a wild slap appears.
Jeff Jarrett.
For the first time, Jarrett is now being called the King of the Mountain because of the match he won the belt in. Slappy makes a bunch of jokes about how old Dusty is. He asks Dusty if he desperately needed the $20 tonight. Way to expose your company as bad payers, Slapnuts. Jarrett gives him a countdown to get out of his ring while strutting about like a constipated peacock. It's actually pretty funny. Big Dusty, of course, does not leave the ring and he beats Jarrett up using his hat and the famous old punches. Slapnuts fights back and grabs his guitar. He's stopped by Ron the Truth Killings, the man who Slapnuts took the world title from. Truth takes himself out and Slapnut bashes him in the head with the guitar. The rest of the 3 live crew, Mold Dog and Conad, come to the save. Road Dogg says Jarrett is useless without his guitar and he promises revenge on the next weekly pay-per-view. Elsewhere, Vinny Rue brags that his number 1 contendership X Division match will blow our minds, especially the secret competitor tonight. It turns out that it's AJ Styles relegated back to the X Division. It's a fatal 4-way also featuring Shawn Michaels' cousin Michael Shane, Elix Skipper and Crisp Sabin. They really pushed the X Division on the first TNA Impact. Michael Shane gets a start with a big gutbuster and walks into a super kick then. He's winded as Elix Skipper tries to bounce off of him into a head scissors on Styles. It doesn't look great, but top marks for effort. AJ wipes out Michael Shane with a dropkick, but now Sabin springboards into the ring with a dropkick. Skipper also flips into the ring with a clothesline to Sabin. Sabin with a crossbody now, but Skipper manages to matrix out of the pin and kick Sabin down. Michael Shane wipes out Skipper with a wheelbarrow suplex. He's not in a hurry to win though. AJ drags Shane out of the ring, but soon regrets that as Shane suplexes him on the outside. In the ring, Skipper gets a 2 off a nice wind-up slam. He can't hit play of the day as Michael Shane crushes him with an execution. AJ saves the pin. Styles is feeling himself now as he flips over Shane and hits an inverted DDT. Beautiful DDT from Sabin to Styles now. Chris Sabin then wipes out Skipper in the corner but runs into a big overhead suplex from Michael Shane. Michael Shane decides to go high risk, but he's shoved into the ropes instead. Skipper hits his famous rope walk hurricanrana out of the ring. AJ and Sabin fight for a second before Sabin flies out of the ring. AJ is left alone in the ring, so he decides to hit a big flip dive to Skipper. Michael Shane has a chance to win now, but AJ stops Sweet Chin Music with a big springboard sunset flip. No pin is made, instead he picks Michael Shane up and hits the Styles Clash for the 3. He's moving on now to face the champion Kazarian on the next weekly pay-per-view. They try to do some pyro to celebrate, but it sounds like it's on the verge of exploding and there's no fireworks sadly. Wow, what an action-packed 45 minutes that was. They did a really good job here, all felt like it flowed, but somehow it didn't feel rushed. Bit light on the old promos and storylines, but I suppose that will be the case until the weekly pay-per-views go away. They also did a really good job keeping all the most annoying wrestlers off the show. It mostly felt like the best of the best, but I am surprised by the lack of Raven, Sabu and Monty Brown. Considering it was TNA's TV debut, you'd think you'd want them on the show. It's kind of difficult though when you only have 45 minutes, isn't it? Because I have no idea who I'd switch out on this show for those guys. That's the end of the first TNA Impact. It was a great show, I ain't telling lies.